to draw your attention to one thing. It's called the front end. So I would say like the best system, however elaborated and cool it is, it's kind of pointless if nobody uses it right. So that's what all people nowadays say, like, oh, you know, we have this Ethereum thing, it's really cool, but nobody uses it. But the key to usability and to adoption is actually a front end that's usable. And that's what I want to show you. So I used to think about front end like this, you know, like there is kind of weird stuff going on in the back end, nobody understands, and then just the front end guys, they come and make it pretty and it looks nice. Kind of this patchworky thing. But I have to say, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not like this. You know, like the smart contract developers and the front end is kind of a different relationship, and I want to show you this. I see it more like, you know, a clock and a clockwork. So we have the clockwork inside of the clock, and it's kind of, you know, like the most important part of the clock, obviously, right? I mean, we're in Switzerland here, making clocks since long. But the thing with the clock and the clockwork is if you just have the clockwork, you can do anything with it, you know? Like you can look at it and be like, wow, okay, it's like tiny little gears. But yeah, you don't get the time out of it. So you need kind of a case around the clock. And if you have like a really high level clockwork and then a crazy nice front end like case around it, then you have like a stunning product like Rolex is doing that everybody wants and pays how much of money just, you know, like to get the time. I have the time on my phone. What's the point? But you see where I'm going. So the agenda for my talks, like the importance of the front end, now you know. The evolution of the manager interface, it's pretty nice. And then it goes a little bit technical with the adaptive Deb architecture. That's something we kind of worked on, but you see it actually in other projects, they go in a similar direction. And in the end, Outlook. Good. Let's start with the manager interface evolution. Back in 2017. We started with this beauty. It was with Meteor as a backend and Play, so it was a centralized service. Although we could make the, is there a pointer? Anyways, we could make the transaction with MetaMask. So there is kind of, yeah, you know, it's quite trustless, but not fully. What's also interesting is like the order book, quite clumsy. Huh? Now, if you imagine like an order book with, you know, liquidity, that wouldn't fit in that design. Anyways, I mean, it was a good first start, but we realized we need to decentralize. So the next step was fully decentralized. So this was the first shot with React components from semantic UI unstyled, just like, you know, take them, put them together, link them to whatever is there. Yeah, the first try. It's not exactly pretty, but you know. First needs to be the functionality, and then there is the design. Important. Form follows function. Okay, so then that's it. So now the form comes after the function. That we kind of had this quick and dirty CSS night where we just said, okay, let's make it almost pretty. I think it was for preparation for M0, right? The night before M0, we tried to do it. But yeah, it looks not bad. Already goes in a good direction. Again, but still the order book, we kind of didn't understand liquidity. Yeah, it's still an issue, you know, but okay. And then I think for the Melon Manager competition last year, exactly last year, it's still the same. But the cool thing is it was the first time that actually it was open for the public. So you see it's running on IPFS, so it was fully decentralized. We even had our own wallet solution. Yes. And then, yeah, still the order book. Okay, and this is funny. Look at that, the transaction confirmation model. Super strong. Cool, then yeah, we decided, okay, now we more or less get the direction of the functionality. Now it's time to actually make a proper design on top of it. So I sat down with my remarkable tablet and tried out how can I do wireframes on it. So and this is the result. Yeah, the idea is like that the manager has, you know, like on one blink of eye, every important information to do, you know, like these trading decisions that give the big money. So it goes in this direction. So also we have then the wireframes for the risk management, for the policies. Yeah, it's maybe not, you don't see that much, but there are wireframes. So Ahmed Afandi did a great job then kind of using these wireframes and going in this direction in this pattern library. So we kind of have like these patterns that we can reuse and build the front end upon. And then in summer 2018, there was the Melon Olympiads, these two series on the mainnet. You already see Matthias Gemperle's impact, because he started around then and started to take over component after component after component in a nice refactoring way to make it pretty. So even here you see the order book and the order form. It's already next step. So yes. I stop here before this, because this morning you saw how the front end looks right now, but now I go more into technical stuff. So the adaptive Deb architecture. So we have the problem. Everybody talks about this, you know, like user experience versus decentralization. So we say, okay, if you want to have a decentralized system, you cannot have like great user experience because people are used to this and that, this fast response. So that's why these centralized order book exchanges are still more liquid than the decentralized one, and so on. And that's also a challenge that we also see. And also we kind of realize we have different environments. So on the one side, we might want to have Electron apps distributed, but on the other side, maybe we want to have like in-browser stuff, so that suddenly goes, and we want to still be decentralized or not. Maybe in the future there will be mobile stuff inside of status, who knows? All this stuff, so the idea is like, okay, we need an architecture that can adapt to all of these different environments. Yeah, and that gives the complexity, like the last bullet point. So here it is. It starts here. The core, the heart, the clockwork of every Deb actually are the smart contracts. So the smart contracts, they are the, you know, like these stable mechanics where it's kind of, we know what's going on. We can exactly regulate it. It's not, you cannot just hack it. There is not SQL injection, or you can hack it if there are flaws. But we kind of assume that they are super safe. And also the smart contracts for themselves, also they are super hard to interact with. And I'm not blaming the guys for not writing proper code, because it's not what they have to do. They have to write secure software and not accessible, easy to juggle about software. So it's kind of a different approach. That's why we built this whole Melon.js around it. So we kind of say, okay, there is the protocol, the purpose of the protocol, or the smart contracts, the purpose is to be secure, but we want to work with it, so we need kind of an accessibility layer around this smart contract. So we kind of just directly have this case around it. And then the JavaScript API, then the data layer comes into play. So we kind of say, okay, the whole data requirements of a Deb like this, like getting order books, getting this data, invest, redeem, whatever, all this needs to be abstracted in a own layer, because otherwise you cannot handle the different environments. And the data layer also takes data from the exchange aggregator, which I will go into more deep in a later slide. And then exposes everything through a GraphQL interface to the user interface. So you see we kind of combine WebSockets from different order books, JSON RPC from the Ethereum, go down to this thing through the data layer to the user interface. And this gives the possibility for these three configurations. On the left side, you see that this is our actual Electron Deb setup that will be the version 1.0. It is, so we kind of assume that you run your own node on your computer, so the outer box is kind of the boundary for computer, and then inside you run the Electron, and inside Electron there is a data layer separated from the user interface. They communicate through a GraphQL over IPC secure layer, so the user interface never has access to the internet, which gives the possibility so that you cannot actually inject some code in there, or even if you can, it cannot call home. So the only way is through the data layer, which is more secure, and this one communicates with the nodes. Then we kind of experimented with these two, and I just bring it to you because it could be interesting, because we are just going with this one. On the upper right side, there is the semi-decentralized, or the hosted one. So this could be your server running the whole data layer on a server and being able to super fast respond to queries from the user interfaces. So also the data layer can cache data from the blockchain and from this decentralized order book and make fast and immediate responses. And so thousands of user interfaces could connect to this data layer and have a fast and experience. The cool thing about this setup, and actually we ran it for quite a while, is that people can just start using your DApp in a performant fashion as they are known from centralized services. And then at some point they realize, oh, the decentralization, this is a thing that I want to look into. And then they can switch over, just download their keys from MetaMask, go over, and then are fully decentralized. And then there is this in-between thing that we kind of tried to do on IPFS with the data layer inside the browser with, through, what was it, service workers. This worked, but yeah. It is too complicated. It doesn't make any sense. We have the full decentralized and full centralized, so it's cool. So we come to the next talk, and actually in the agenda that you had, like Sebastian Simpson should present this, but he couldn't make it, so I kind of jump in here because he did extremely amazing work with this Exchange Aggregator. So what it is, the Exchange Aggregator is an NPM package that everybody who knows how to use NPM can use and aggregate the order books of different exchanges. It also is possible to aggregate centralized exchanges, but we don't talk about this now, but for here, all decentralized exchanges. So it can take all the orders, all the order updates like cancel order, fill order, whatever it is, make order, and gives all these events, these are the bullets, and come together and combine it, aggregate it. The cool thing is that this aggregator, it's super, it's self-healing. So if somehow this connection kind of drops, this tool realizes it, waits, tries to reconnect, and as soon as the connection says, say, okay, this was my last state, can you bring me the rest? Bring this in, aggregate, and put it out. So if you ever want to interact with more than one exchanges, think about this and try to use it. It's quite usable. It's already there. You can use it in the terminal or be integrated in the front end. It's super cool. Yeah, you might think how it works with the Kyber exchanges or the Kyber reserve managers. There we kind of say, okay, we go with different quantities and then we get different prices and we kind of simulate an order book like this. So watch this repo. The second repo I want to draw your attention to is the token math. Here we have the problem of kind of do mathematics with tokens. So we always had, in the first releases of the front end, we had this, like rounding errors. So you kind of, then you round the price and then you get rounding errors and you're like, why, where are they coming from? One of the problem is like the number.max save integer in JavaScript. This number is smaller as 1 ETH in way. So as soon as you go with 1 ETH, even 0.001 ETH is already like above the max safe number. And what JavaScript does is kind of, it goes into a floaty number where you have like precision loss. And this kind of gives headaches if you don't know about this. So we created this token math library. This is the first problem. The second problem is like, if you only look at numbers, then you have no context. So it's important to say, okay, if I can add one MLN and one MLN, that gives me 2 MLN, okay. But what if I do add 1 MLN and 1 ETH? What is the outcome? It doesn't make sense mathematically, right? So, I mean, maybe you want to know, okay, yeah, maybe Melon in ETH and 1 ETH, but like this, it doesn't work. And it gets even more crazy if you try to divide tokens. So this is what token math is about. It's really simple. It says there is not just a number, it's a quantity, and the quantity is tied to a token. And this token also has decimals. So the Bitcoin token, or the Bitcoin has other amount of decimals, 8 than Ether 18, which also like made our heads exploding. But so we came up with this library, which you can also use. It's quite simple. It's just like add, subtract, and stuff like this. But also you have these functionalities like you have a token quantity and the price, and that you can say a token quantity times price gives this, and so the ANT token times the ANT price, and then you see you can do calculation like this. For us, it's important for the holding. So if you ever kind of had problems with in JavaScript, have these calculations, this library that you could use. So in the end, as we saw, like this is the front end how it looks like, maybe yesterday night. But yeah, there will be still some progress, so you will soonish be able to download it by yourself and have a look. So to conclude this presentation and maybe this afternoon, I'd like to do a little bit outlook. So as I said, we had these wireframes, and Ahmed Afandi did a great job actually, you know, like bringing this to life with mockups like this. And this mockup is still around, and the front end doesn't look like this yet, but I think that's the direction to go. And hopefully we see this happening soon. Also, as I kind of peeked in, most of the designs actually were made mobile ready. So for us, we have the designs mobile ready, they're around. Just needs to be implemented on mobile. Yeah. And then, to the end, in this year, we kind of also worked on a solution how to create reports and for these blockchain funds, and how to then also audit them. How can we you know, automated these operations? How can we do this? But yeah, in the end, we kind of it's not ready yet. So this is just a peek. M2 will give more insights into this. So thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you so much.